Now that we have some basic understanding of how the slide rule works, we're going to see how we can apply it to multiplication. I'm going to get the slide rule and I'm going to highlight the 10 on the A scale and the B scale. These are going to be important reference points when we do multiplication and division. Next, I'm going to put it here in a position where we have 20 divided by 10. We know that 20 divided by 10, if we cut both zeros, is the same thing as 2 divided by 1. I'm going to go here and put the cursor on 50 divided by 25. Since I didn't move the scale, 50 divided by 25 is going to have to be the same thing as 2 divided by 1. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the 25 to the other side so it's not a fraction anymore. And to do that, I'm going to multiply both sides by 25. So we have 2 times 25, 2 times 25 equals 50. Both the 25s here cancel out. So basically, this 10 here on the B scale can be used as an index for multiplication. The multiplier will be placed here above the 10. The number that we're going to be multiplying it by is going to be here on the B scale, and the result is going to be on top of that number on the A scale, the result of multiplication. We've seen that the decimal points can vary, so when reading the answer, we always have to use common sense to see if the decimal point is in the right position. In this case, it makes sense that 2 times 25 equals 50 and not 5 or 0.5 or 500. We also know that there will be a different decimal place between the different regions marked by the tens from the A and the B scale. So if I got a certain decimal point here in this area, the decimal point will be different in this one. So let's take a look at what would happen in the other region with a different decimal point. I'm going to move the cursor here where the 60 is. And I know that 2 is not the same thing as 12 divided by 60. That makes sense. It makes more sense that 2 is 12 divided by 6. So in this case, I had to adjust the placement of the decimal point for the correct answer, something that we didn't have to do in the previous example. Now we're going to rearrange this equation here to see if it works with our multiplication rule. So I'm going to move this 6 to the other side by multiplying both sides by 6 of the equation. Here the 6's cancel out. So we basically have 2 times 6 equals 12. So the 10 here is the index we use for multiplication. The multiplier is 2. The number that is being multiplied by is right here, is 6. There is no 6 on the scale, so we use 60 and just ignore the 0. And remember that our answer is going to differ by a certain number of decimal points that we're going to have to figure out using common sense. And on top of that number, we can read the result of multiplication right here, which is 12. If we were to do 2 times 60, we would do exactly the same thing. We would put 2 here above the 10. We would go to the 60, which is the number that we're being multiplied by, and then read the answer here, which is 12. Here's the 10, 11, 12. But the answer, we don't really know what the decimal point is. So we always take into account the possibilities that we can have here and then figure out which one makes more sense. 2 times 60 equals 12. That doesn't make sense. 2 times 60 equals 120. That makes more sense. This one here doesn't, and this one doesn't either. So the answer is 120. For 20 times 60, we would do exactly the same thing. 20 is the multiplier. We would put it here above the 10. The 60 is the number that's being multiplied by. We would have it right here in the B scale. And the answer would be read on the A scale, which is 10, 11, 12. Now we have to figure out what the decimal point is going to be. 20 times 60 equals 12. That doesn't make sense. 20 times 60 equals 120. That can't be because 2 times 60 equals 120. 20 times 60 equals 1,200. Well, that's probably the answer. And 1.2 is not the answer. So we have here 1,200. And we had to use common sense to determine that. Now an example, 0.2 times 6. Well, we do exactly the same thing. It's going to be 12 or 120 or 1,200 or 1.2. 12 doesn't make sense. It's probably going to be less than 12. So it's going to be 1.2. Now we're going to do a completely new problem. 4 times 65. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the 4 above the 10 on the B scale, because that's the index for multiplication. We don't really have a 4 here in the scale, so we're going to use the 40. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to find where 65 is on the B scale. That's the number that we're multiplying it by. 65 is right here, between the 60 and the 70. And the answer is going to be right above it. We just have to adjust the answer for the decimal points. So the answer is 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Now we have to adjust for the decimal point. 4 times 65 equals 26. That would be too little. 4 times 65 equals 260. That makes more sense. 4 times 65 equals 2,600. That's too much, and this one is too little. So the answer is 260. And that's how we do multiplication using the slide rule on the E6B.